"Mom, why do you hate me so much?" That's what I asked. Not during a fight. Not through tears or slammed doors. I asked on a quiet, windless Saturday afternoon as she stood in front of my new apartment, holding a bag of cookies I used to love as a kid, with a look that couldn't decide whether to be angry, tender, or ready to control me all over again. "You gave birth to me, gave me this face and this body, and then treated me like a walking wallet." I swallowed my tears and kept going. "All these years, have you ever truly loved me?" She said nothing. And in that silence, I knew there was no going back. Not because I was bitter, but because I was too tired to keep trying. That was the moment I realized that if I didn't free myself, no one else would ever. And this is my story, a daughter who once just wanted to be seen, but ended up learning how to save herself. I was never the child my parents hoped for. When I was little, I used to hear my mom tell the same story repeatedly, how, during her pregnancy, she prayed for a baby girl who was pretty, fair-skinned, with thick hair like a doll. But then I was born with dark skin, thin hair, and a chubby body that made the doctor joke, "She's developing a little too well." The older I got, the further I seemed from anyone's idea of being easy on the eyes. I had breakouts starting at 12, and my body always looked awkward, like I was wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. While other kids got praised for being cute, all I ever got were pitiful glances, or worse, those judgmental side eyes from adults. Yeah, I got body shamed like that. And things only got worse when my younger brother was born. Everything I didn't have, he had. Bright eyes, fair skin, tall, with a dazzling smile. Whenever we went to a family gathering, the relatives would gush, "Ben looks like a little Hollywood actor." And me? I'd get jokes like, "Maybe she takes after our great-grandfather." Everyone would burst out laughing. I wouldn't. My parents didn't even try to hide their favoritism. Mom once said, "Looking like that, the only way you'll ever have a shot is if you're smart." Dad added, "If you don't have the looks, at least don't be lazy." But I wasn't lazy. I was just exhausted from trying in silence, pretending to be strong, and trying to seem normal. I tried to change. I signed up for early morning workouts, cut out sweets, and ate nothing but salad for a month. At one point, I lost nearly 15 pounds. But the cost was too high, my body gave out. I ended up in the hospital with severe exhaustion and anemia. When my parents heard, they didn't visit. They just sent one message: "Stop putting on a show. That body of yours isn't going to change." They had no idea. All I wanted was to be seen. To be praised just once. To be like my little brother loved, without having to earn it. Hi everyone, my name is Haley. I'm 28 and live in Columbus, Ohio. My younger brother's name is Ben. He's 4 years younger than me, and from the moment he was born, he became the center of everyone's affection in our family. I was different. I wasn't cute, I wasn't bubbly, I didn't leave much of an impression. I grew up overweight, with acne-covered skin, thinning hair, and a voice so soft it always sounded like I was apologizing just for existing. Other kids got called by sweet nicknames. Me? I got called Fat Haley, Walking Loaf of Bread, and sometimes even Rolling Oil Drum. The teasing at school happened almost every day. Kids avoided sitting next to me in class. During PE, I was always picked last. One time, I brought a homemade lunch, chicken and veggies, and a boy yelled, "Watch out, the fat girl's gonna eat everyone's food." The whole group burst out laughing. I just sat there, face burning, wishing I could disappear from that world. I once told my mom, hoping for some comfort. She just shrugged and said, "Well, they're joking, but you are fat. It's not like they're lying." My dad snapped, "You're crying over that?" Weak. I learned something earlier than most kids ever should. No one was going to stand up for me. Not even the ones who gave me life. Ben was the complete opposite. He was slim, bright, and quick-witted. He was always the one picked to be class president, the one teachers asked to host school events. His birthdays were thrown at entertainment centers, with 3-tiered cakes and presents piled high on the table. My birthdays? Some years, they forgot altogether. I remember getting a shirt from a clearance rack once, and Mom said, "If it fits, Try to keep it nice. Don't eat so much you rip it. Every time Ben tripped or scraped his knee, Mom would run to him, scoop him up, comfort him, and promise a new toy to compensate for it. Me? I once broke my arm falling at the playground. Mom showed up an hour late. She was washing her hair, and when she finally saw me lying there, all she did was sigh and say, "You're old enough to know better. Why weren't you more careful?" So, I learned to keep to myself. No after-school clubs. No talent shows. I never brought friends home. I didn't shrink back because I was scared of people. I just got used to not being wanted. I lived like a shadow. And the most painful truth was this: even in my own family, I never felt free to be myself. I started working when I was just a sophomore in college, not because I was passionate about it, but because I knew one thing for sure: in this house, if I didn't take care of myself, no one would. I majored in accounting, chose a public university to save money, and worked part-time at a small office. I'd go to class in the morning, work in the afternoon, and do freelance bookkeeping at night. Some days, I slept less than 4 hours to make sure I could pay my tuition on time and still have a few $100s left to help my parents. At that point, my parents had already stopped working due to health issues. They lived off government assistance and the money I sent them. What started as a few $100 became a few thousand. Whenever the roof needed fixing, the washer broke down, or an insurance bill was due, they called me. The conversation always began the same way: "You're the only one we can count on, sweetie." Ben, by then, was in college, studying some vague, expensive art major. He rarely attended class on time, but I still paid his tuition. I even covered his rent near campus. One time, he lost his phone. I wired $800 for a new one. Not because he asked, but because my mom cried on the phone. "He lost something, he's upset, and we don't have the money. Can you help your brother?" I truly believed that if I worked hard enough and sacrificed enough, they would finally see me differently one day. After graduation, I started applying for full-time jobs. I sent out over 40 resumes and went to more than 10 interviews. And then, the rejections started rolling in. It wasn't about my qualifications. It was about how I looked. Some companies said it outright: "We're looking for someone more presentable to greet clients." Others were more subtle: "This role requires a lot of client interaction, and we need someone with a polished image." A polished image? Oh, I understood exactly what that meant. They weren't talking about my ethics. Or my skills. They didn't want a chubby, plain-looking girl showing up in their office. I once stood outside an office building after one of those 3-minute courtesy interviews soaked from the rain, asking myself, I studied hard, worked jobs, gave it everything I had, and I still get rejected just because I'm not pretty? But then I found them. A small company that specializes in financial data processing. The office was modest, no fancy coffee aroma. No one dressed in designer brands. When I walked in, the manager asked me just one question: "Can you handle urgent report deadlines?" I said yes. She nodded. "Good. You start tomorrow." And just like that, I had a job. A steady income. The means to help my family even more, finally becoming the dutiful, good daughter they expected me to be. I worked hard. Took on challenging tasks without complaint. 3 years later, I was promoted to financial team lead, managing corporate clients. My first-year salary was $65,000. I make nearly $85,000 a year, not counting quarterly bonuses. I have full health insurance and a solid savings account, and I could easily finance a car if I wanted one. But instead of buying a car, I sent the money home. Regularly. Money for mom's checkups at a private clinic. Money for dad, a high-end gardening toolkit because he said he missed working with his hands. I even paid for a wedding anniversary trip to New York, booked the tickets, and covered everything. They went, without inviting me. Still, I didn't complain. I told myself that at least I'm a good daughter. But I was wrong. The gratitude I waited for, it never came. What I got instead was something else: expectation. From then on, I became something automatic. A walking wallet for the family. Maybe it wouldn't have felt so heavy until that Wednesday evening. I had just finished work and was waiting for the company shuttle at the last stop. The sky was gray, a drizzle was falling, and I was shivering under a thin coat. I'd forgotten my umbrella. Then my phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Your brother was in a car accident," she said. Her voice rushed. "The doctor recommends a full checkup, but the insurance hasn't cleared yet. I can't pull together the money fast enough. Can you help $5,000? It's urgent." I didn't ask questions. I nodded, opened my banking app, and transferred the money to the bus stop. I didn't hesitate, because that's who I've always been. I believe when it's family you help. I went home in silence. Ate dinner alone, like always. I got a quick text from Mom. "Got it, thank you. Ben's okay now." No call. No update. But I figured they were probably busy. 3 days later, during my lunch break, I pulled out my phone and casually scrolled through social media. And there it was. A photo that froze me in place right in the middle of the employee lounge. Ben, posing next to a brand new, jet black car, temporary plates still taped to the windshield, beaming with that all too familiar smile. The caption read, "Treating myself a little. A new chapter." I read it 3 times. To make sure I wasn't seeing things. There was no hospital. No bruises. No ER visit. I messaged my mom, trying to keep calm. "You said Ben was in an accident." "But he bought a car." She replied 5 minutes later, "Well, it was just a minor accident. But he was feeling down, and we thought he needed a lift in spirit. He's graduating soon, so we bought him the car to help him get around." I didn't even finish the message. It felt like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water in my face. Me, the daughter who still takes the company shuttle to work every day, who packs her lunch, who double-checks her budget before buying a new pair of shoes. I had just sent $5,000 so my brother could pay a car down. A car he proudly posted online. A celebration, built on a lie. The anger and heartbreak hit me like a punch to the chest. They hadn't just taken my money. They took the only thing I still had left to give, my trust. That night, I came home, skipped dinner, left the lights off, and didn't turn on the TV. I went straight to my room, shut the door, and stared at my bank account on my phone screen. The balance had taken a brutal hit after that transfer. And the only thought looping in my head was, whose life am I even living? Me, the one who wakes up at 5:30 a.m., runs on deadlines until late at night, never goes out, doesn't hang with friends, doesn't splurge. What did I do to end up carrying the weight of a lazy younger brother and 2 people who call themselves parents, but have never respected their daughter's efforts? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just made a decision. That same night, I logged into every account I had set to auto-pay for the family, electric and water bills. Internet. Ben's phone plan. Spotify, Netflix, Amazon Prime. I canceled them all one by one. My hands were shaking with each confirmation click. Then I logged into my bank and canceled the $1,500 monthly auto transfer I'd been sending to my parents. The account I used to call Spending Money for Mom and Dad. I had even nicknamed it home. Now there was nothing left. At exactly 12:04 a.m., I typed one message. Just one. I sent it to the family group chat, the same chat where I'd send payment receipts, and they'd leave me on scene. Starting today, I will no longer be covering any expenses for the family. The money I earn will be used to live my life. Right after hitting send, I left the group. I didn't wait to see their reaction. I stood up, closed my bedroom door, locked it from the inside, and turned off the light. The whole house was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of the silence. I was standing at the edge, between family and freedom. And inside, I was a mess of thoughts. I didn't know how they'd react in the morning. But I knew one thing for sure, I was done being anyone's wallet. I woke up at 6 a.m., getting ready for work. But the atmosphere in the house was utterly different. There was no sound of Mom calling from the kitchen. There is no smell of coffee or toasted bread. Just a heavy, suffocating silence waiting for me beyond my bedroom door. When I stepped out, Dad was sitting on the couch, eyes glued to the TV, even though the screen was off. Mom stood by the dining table, arms crossed, gaze cold as ice. No one said good morning. No one asked how I slept. But I knew they were waiting for me to speak first. I grabbed my work bag, ready to head out, when Mom finally broke the silence. "What was that stunt you pulled last night?" I didn't answer. Dad spoke next, voice low and tight. "I thought you were mature enough to understand family. Turns out you chose to betray it instead." I turned back, stood up straight. I didn't betray anyone. I just stopped letting people take advantage of me. Mom scoffed, her voice sharp as a blade. "Take advantage? We raised you, paid for your schooling, and now that you make money, you want to get petty with your parents." "I'm not being petty," I said, clearly, every word deliberate. "I just don't want to keep paying for unfair things." Dad's tone turned harsh. "We're your parents. If something bothered you, you should have said it. You think leaving a group chat cuts you off from blood ties?" Just then, Ben walked out of his room in pajamas, phone in hand, looking irritated like I'd ruined his weekend. "You're being ridiculous," he muttered. "The Wi-Fi's out. None of my apps are loading. Who's gonna pay back all the stuff you canceled without asking?" I looked at him. Just looked. Until he repeated louder, "Are you just gonna stay silent now?" I gave a hollow smile. "Yeah, silent. Just like all of you were while spending my money." Ben tilted his chin, voice rising. "If you didn't want to support us anymore, you could have said so. Cutting things off like that? That's irresponsible. Just 'cause you make money doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want." Mom jumped in. "You're getting more and more disrespectful, Haley. All this over some money? You act like your dad and I are strangers." I didn't say another word, because I was afraid if I opened my mouth, I'd scream. I slung my bag over my shoulder and walked out the door. I didn't look back. I got to the office earlier than usual, made some coffee, sat in front of my screen, and tried to pretend nothing had happened. But inside, I felt hollow, like something had cracked wide open. And I knew it wasn't over. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. But I could feel one thing for sure: this break was real. And it couldn't be mended. I got to the office early, trying to convince myself it's just another morning. "You're okay. You've got this." But my heart wasn't listening. My hands were shaking as I made coffee. I opened my computer, but my mind couldn't focus. The hurt was still raw, like the atmosphere at home had reached into my chest, squeezed my heart tight, and then tossed it out without a second thought. Around noon, I opened my email to check my monthly credit card statement, just part of my usual routine. However, something unfamiliar caught my eye in the transaction history. Transaction: Sunrise Auto Dealership $642.31 note. Monthly auto payment installment February 30th under the name Ben Carter. I froze. What the hell was going on? I pulled up last month's statement. There it was again, the first transaction on the 14th, $642.31. I scrolled further. Another one on the 7th, $5,000 wire transfer. The exact day Mom called, saying Ben had been in a car accident. I couldn't even breathe. The new car Ben proudly posted on Instagram. The caption: "Treating myself a little." Mom's vague explanations. It all pieced itself together, a twisted puzzle that everyone but me had the complete picture of. And then it hit me. Mom called me from an electronics store 3 months ago, saying the vacuum cleaner broke. I was in a meeting, so I read her my credit card number over the phone and said, "Hold on to it for now. I'll return it when I get home." I forgot, but she didn't. She kept it. That afternoon, I couldn't focus on anything anymore. I just sat there, staring blankly at my screen, eyes dull and empty. Near the end of the day, Maya, my close friend and coworker, stopped by my desk. She tilted her head, studied my face, then leaned in and asked softly, "You look like you just got hit by a bus. You okay?" I pressed my lips together. I couldn't fake it anymore. So I told her everything. About the $5,000 lie. About the car on Instagram. The credit card statements. The way my parents saw me as nothing more than a bottomless wallet. and the crushing realization that, to them, I was just a tool to make their lives easier. Maya listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. When I finished, she nodded slowly and said, "I don't know what to say to make this feel any better, but I'm glad you said it aloud. A lot of people never even get that far." Then she tapped the edge of my desk like something just came to mind. "Oh, and by the way, I'm moving in with my husband soon. I was planning to rent out my place. It's fully furnished, clean, quiet, and close to the bus line. If you need somewhere to go, it's yours. I'll give it to you for cheap, no deposit." I looked at Maya, holding back tears. Maybe for the first time, I felt like I was finally being set free. I didn't ask questions. I just nodded. Because for the first time, someone was reaching out, with no strings attached. That night, I brought the credit card statement home. Everyone was having dinner. Mom ladled soup into bowls, Dad scrolled through the news on his iPad, and Ben had his feet up on a chair, eating fried chicken while playing a game on his phone. I didn't sit down. I placed the paper on the table, next to Ben's bucket of chicken and plate of fries. I looked straight at Mom. "Mom, what is this?" She glanced up, saw the paper, then looked at me. There was a flicker of panic, then her expression smoothed into calm. "What?" "Some bank thing of yours. Car payments. Under the name Ben Carter. On my credit card." Dad stopped reading. Lifted his eyes to me. Ben didn't look up. Mom set her spoon down. "Well, he needed a car to get to work. The bus is a hassle. And it's not like you even used that card. You used my card to buy a car for Ben and didn't say a word? You've got money, a good salary. Who will if you won't help your brother?" she snapped. I stood frozen for a moment, words caught in my throat. "Do you remember the day you called me from the appliance store? You said the vacuum broke. I gave you my card info over the phone, said I'd get it back when I got home." I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. "I forgot. But you didn't. You kept it. And you used it. Without asking. Without permission. Without telling me." Mom went quiet. Dad put down the iPad and sighed. "It's just a car. You're acting like we robbed you." I laughed, dry, bitter. "Then from now on, you can all figure things out without me." I turned and walked to my room. Started packing. Not because I was angry, but because I knew staying no longer meant being home. Mom stood up, watching me drag my suitcase toward the door. Her voice was quiet but clear. "All this, over some money?" I didn't turn back. Because if I did, I'd have to say it. It's not about the money. It's about you never seeing me as your daughter. Later that night, I wheeled my suitcase down the alley to the bus stop I'd used for years. Same Route 32. It's the same old plastic benches. But this time, I wasn't sitting there feeling abandoned. I was leaving on my terms. And at that moment, when the bus pulled up, when the doors opened, and I stepped inside, I realized I'm no longer anyone's wallet. No longer the daughter who had to sacrifice just to be noticed. I am me. And for the first time, I'm about to breathe. Maya's new apartment wasn't big, but to me, at that moment, it felt like a makeshift nest, warm in a way I hadn't known in years. The bedroom was small but full of sunlight. The old sofa, worn and faded, was clean and soft. On the kitchen counter, she'd left a dried flower arrangement and a handwritten note. "If you're tired, just lie down. This place is yours now." I broke down in tears for the first time in weeks. Not because I was hurting, but because for the first time in my life, I felt chosen for who I was. Not for what I could provide. Not out of guilt. Not out of duty. Just me. I spent the whole weekend doing nothing but sleeping, eating on time, cleaning the apartment, and ignoring my phone. When I finally turned it back on Monday morning, there were over 30 missed calls. Caller IDs, Mom, Dad, Ben, Mom, Ben, Dad. No apologies. No messages asking if I was okay. Just one text from Mom was sent at 1:47 a.m. "So you're gonna abandon your family?" I didn't reply. A week later, on my way home from work, I saw someone standing outside the gate of the apartment complex. It was my mother. She wore a thin coat and held a paper bag. Inside was a pack of cookies I used to love as a kid. Haley, her voice was soft. Not angry, not sharp, just small. I stopped but kept my distance. What do you need, Mom? I just wanted to talk. Since you left, the house has felt so quiet. Ben's been down. Your dad's been on edge. I've been thinking a lot. I took a breath. Then I did something I'd never had the courage to do in all my 26 years as her daughter. I looked her in the eyes and asked, "Do you hate me?" She flinched. What? I clenched my fists to stay steady. I just want to know, do you hate me? Or did you never learn how to love me? Why did you treat me the way you did? You gave birth to me. You gave me this face, this body, and then let the whole family use it as a punchline. Then, as I grew, you treated me like a walking ATM. Her face went pale. Haley, I never meant, you never loved me? Yeah, I figured. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just spoke as calmly as I could. You love Ben unconditionally, even when he's lazy, selfish, and disrespectful. But I had to get good grades, work a job, pay bills just to maybe earn a kind word. And you thought that was fair? She said nothing. Her hand trembled around the paper bag. Haley, I didn't mean to. You know I always tried to take care of the family, no. You just wanted me to take care of everyone. You choose who to love. And who to use. I looked at her, one last time. I'm not angry. I just don't have space for this relationship anymore. I turned and walked inside, leaving her standing there, still holding that bag of cookies, her face lost and confused, like, for the first time in her life, she realized the strings she used to pull no longer worked. And I knew this time I wasn't going back. I used to think leaving home meant starting over from zero, but it didn't. I didn't start from zero, I started from me. No more waking up to bank alerts and anxiety. No more midnight calls from Ben asking for just a little more. No more dinner tables filled with fake smiles and a hollowness I couldn't explain. Now, I wake up when my alarm rings. In a room that's mine, with sunlight filtering through the curtains and the sound of birds outside my tiny balcony, where I've placed a little lavender plant. I started cooking again, not to save money, but because I want to care for myself. I've learned to pick fresh veggies and season food just right. And for the first time in my life, I ate dinner without the weight of someone's judgmentalized saying, "Eat like that, and you wonder why you're still fat?" I started working out again, not to please anyone, not to stop Mom from comparing me to Ben, but because I want to breathe easier, sleep deeper, and feel lighter when I see myself in the mirror. I reconnected with some old college friends. People used to text me for coffee, but I always said no because my family needs me. Now, I need me. We sat at a little cafe off a quiet street, shared stories from back then, and laughed more than we cried. Somewhere in that laughter, I realized I no longer felt ashamed of who I was. I no longer wanted to shrink into the shadows. I'm not perfect, but I'm honest. One evening, while cleaning my room, I found the note Mom had left at my apartment door weeks ago. I'd thought about throwing it away, but I kept it not to forgive, but to remember. To remember that I once lived for others. And now I'm living for myself. I folded the note, didn't read it, tucked it carefully into a box. Not to hold on, but to close the chapter. I don't care how Ben's car payments are going. I don't wonder if the electric bill got paid, or how Mom scraped together money for the water bill. That's no longer my business. I used to carry everything, used to stretch me thin to keep a family standing, even when that family stood on my back. Not anymore. I'm not a pillar. And if they feel lost without me, maybe they'll finally learn how to stand on their own. That night, I played soft jazz. The window was open. The breeze stirred the thin white curtains like a breath. I sat at the table, sipped chamomile tea, and for the first time, I wasn't dreading tomorrow. I was curious. Maybe something new will happen. Maybe not. But I'll still wake up early, go to work, live kindly, and protect my peace. Because after everything, I've learned how to live. Without needing permission. All I needed is to be me. And you? What about you? Have you ever felt like a walking wallet in your own family? Have you carried the weight of everything only to be met with silence or worse, disrespect? If so, remember this. You have the right to stop. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to choose you. Don't wait for someone else's permission. Life doesn't start when others approve. It starts the moment you say, enough. I deserve more than this. And then tomorrow comes. Quiet. Unremarkable. But somehow just enough to make you smile. If stories like this make you feel seen, follow this page. Let's keep listening to the journeys of awakening, healing, and finally coming home to ourselves.